Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. I'm your host, BMR or Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. This show goes beyond cryptids and Bigfoot. We take a much deeper dive down that rabbit hole. We take on subjects beyond our very own realms and realities. We look at strange phenomena and the unexplained, such as time travel, alien and UFO existence, strange hauntings and mysteries, including the paranormal. We focus on all of these rabbit holes and how they all come full circle. Tonight, my guest, Barry Littleton, talking about life, death, what's beyond, with my co-host, Tex. Subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob and to Texas Front Porch on YouTube. You can find us on Odyssey and iHeartRadio, also on KPNL Radio. Thank you to the lovely Ann Selene for that. We also found on all podcast platforms. If you like our content, the super chat is open. The super chat is open long after the show ends. We also have the super thanks. So tomorrow, the next day, next month, whatever. If you want to donate, feel free. We do appreciate that. But more than your money, we appreciate subscribing and sharing out our channels. Mondays is Texas Front Porch, 7:30 in the East. Tuesdays, Van Buren Variety, 8 o'clock in the East, followed by Beyond BMR at 9 in the East. Jason McLean, Mysterious Library, 10 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays, we come right back with the Serial Papers at 9 in the East, followed by Jason McLean Questions Everything at 10 o'clock in the East. Thursdays, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. The Blondes and Booze, also on Thursday at 9 in the East. Fridays, a double dose of the booze, the Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo comes at you at 9 in the East. And don't forget, the lovely, the talented Jessica Jones, Space Still Radio, every weekend, 10 o'clock in the East. Thank you for that. We got a great show set up for you, and I've got to bring up my co-host, Tex. Tex,
What's up, brother?
I think this is the first time that I can say Happy New Year face to face, I think.
Yeah. I mean, we've texted the crap out of each other. But
we sure have. I would get into New Year's Eve, but I guess you just have to rustle up a couple good pony houses for me to take it down to good old Texas.
Yeah, well, you sure you don't want to talk about New Year's Eve? Because I don't mind talking about New Year's Eve, because I had a pretty good New Year's Eve.
Yeah, it was. Well, I tell you what, as everyone knows, I lost my bet, and I graciously accept defeat.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a good time, Tex. You got to find a good steakhouse, though. I got to tell you, because I got to make sure that we do it right. I was thinking about just getting sizzlums, but I'm not cheap. I'm not a cheapskate. When in Texas, you eat steak.
Well, I'm kind of figuring we're gonna hit that steakhouse in Jefferson next time you're down here.
So. Yeah. Well, that looks. I know which one you're talking about. That looks pretty good. If we indeed go back, which would be cool. Which that was always a good time too in Jefferson. So yes. So other than that, we got a great show for everybody tonight.
You could just Venmo the money, and I could have a steak dinner in San Antonio.
Yeah. Well, I don't have Venmo, man. I want to do it together, my friend. What's the purpose? Eating, drinking amongst friends, right? I mean, if you can't wait that long, I suppose. Back when you weren't monetized, I was sucking up all the super chats.
You were.
Thanks for that, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for that. I see Lily Pond, Penny Van, Pam Smith, Bomber. Oh, Jamie, Overbuilt, Chiro Sounds, Be Kind. a whole bunch of it. That's all I see for now. But hey, we got to get to Shoreline. Thanks for everybody who's tuning in now and later. We do appreciate it. Tex and I and the rest of our illustrious team, Jason McLean, Bobby Van Buren over there too, and the Blondes and Booze. So we're gonna bring up our great guest, Barry Littleton. Barry, I see you messing around back there, checking your lights. I see.
No, the fan actually a little warm in there.
We'll get it,
How you guys doing?
Going, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if you're listening to our chat or we had a little a bet going on. And I bet on the Michigan Wolverines would take down the TCU football team. I can't even tell you the name of the mascot that they have out there. That's another story. They're a lizard of some sort. That's what Tex says.
TCU reptilians.
The TCU reptilians. I guess they're called the horned frogs. Yeah,
the horned frogs.
Well, the Horned Frogs took down the Wolverines, Barry, on New Year's Eve. So I made Tex a bet, steak dinner to the winner. Figured I'd be eating heartily. So I graciously accept defeat. So when I see Tex, I owe him a steak dinner.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. That's the way to do it. Be careful there. There's some. I've been places where you get called a carnivore for eating steak, and I say, yes, I'm a carnivore. I am omnivore. I do a lot of vegetables too, but hey,
omnivore. Yeah, I do steak. Yeah, I can do both. I do steak. I do chicken. I'll mix some veggies in there. But that's
I'll eat just about anything online. Will chase it too far.
Yeah, as long as you don't have to. Yeah. Hey, Barry. I think this is second. First of all, thank you for coming on the show, Barry, because I know you're a busy guy. You have a lot going on. And
thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here again. See you guys again. It's been a while, so thank you.
It's been a bit. I first met you through Jessica, Jessica Jones, and saw you on a show. Then I think I joined in on you with you two on a show. Then Tex had you on, and you've been on this show once. We talked time travel last thing. And everybody out there listening, watching in chat and listening later, Barry Littleton knows a lot about a lot of different subjects. Barry, I know you take a lot of time studying a lot of different things, and I consider you a go-to guy when I have a question. I send you a text and ask you a question or two. So I do appreciate you taking out the time.
My pleasure. I'm honored. I'm honored that anybody views me that way or listens to me. So I'm happy to try to help. It's a time in this world where we need to help and try to step forward and not destroy ourselves as a civilization. It's awful important right now. More important than maybe ever before.
Yep. And I know we'll get into a little bit because a little bit of what we want to talk about kind of ties into that. Now, this is kind of a personal matter, Barry. The title of this show was Life After Death, or what would you call it? The crossing over and seeing the light, perhaps. And you can get more into that. But if you don't mind, I'd like you to walk us through. You don't even really have to tell. If you want to tell your personal account, that would be fantastic. But for a lot of us out there, you've had the experience in it, right? So I guess the question is there really something beyond?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I don't have a problem telling my own story, because had it not been for that, I would never have come forward. I always said I would, but I wasn't really. And then I wound up getting inadvertently exposed because of this. In 2010, I had a really bad car accident on my way to work. It was just a few miles from where I lived, actually. And with my high IQ, I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. And I had this little I had a Trans Am. And when I got hit, I went through a lot of the windows in there, including the T-tops. And I sustained 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries. A hematoma to the front lobe, hematoma to the brainstem, hematoma to the quarter lobe, and what they call DFA, diffuse axonal, which means my brain turned in the case upon impact, and spotting of the brain similar to shaken baby syndrome. 90% of people, 95% of people that get DFA fall into a coma naturally or induced faster, and 95% never regain consciousness. So I'm very blessed to be not just conscious, but cognitive as well. But during this, I had a near-death experience. They resuscitated me in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And it took me about a month to remember who I was. I was in a coma for about 2 weeks. And then after that, it took me about a month to remember who I was, what they so-called clearing out as a brain patient. And, and when this was over, I had even before I remembered who I was, I had encountered these angelic forms, these light, they weren't physical, they're light. There were 4 of them that I had encountered, and they look like these corpuscles of light, like 1,000 strands of them. Okay. With these, they look like I'm a Star Trek guy. They look like shields around them to me. And the amount of love that I felt coming off these beings that were regal, the amount of love I felt, I think they were toning it down or it would have burned up my body. I don't think we can handle that type of pure creator love. You don't think of love hurting that way, only like how we hurt each other here on earth in relationships. This is something different. It's a different intensity. So I've been having encounters my whole life. And when I remembered who I was, I had to compare the love frequency and energy that I felt from these beings. The Uranta book has a term for these certain type of angels they call supernanaphim, SUPERNAPHIM. And they describe that as being a type of archangel that's slightly different, but that level. I think that's what these beings were. And I had hundreds of people come by my the waiting room, the room looking at the window at me, and actually stopping time to really pray for me and wish me well. And I'm convinced that they channeled that energy with the prime creator to heal me to what you see now. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. I was trying to actually, I had to compare what I experienced with these supernanaphim compared to some of the non-physical intelligences I've encountered on board spaceships and during the contact experience. And for the beings I've encountered, it wasn't reptilians, grays. A lot of people probably heard me talk about this. They were higher beings of a higher vibration and a whole different thing going on. And the fact that the beings...
Hey, Barry, really, really quickly, was this after or prior? You've had encounters all the way up to
I started having encounters at about 5, 6, 7 years old.
Okay.
And they were intense. And then my near-death experience did not happen until I was 36.
Okay.
So that no way influences that. And a lot of my physical encounters seemed to stop around 30, and they turned into more information, more a different type of deal. It wasn't as physical as ships coming up on you and just making you go, whoa, man. It's a little bit different. Anyway, on board these craft and these non-human intelligences, a lot of them don't have bodies. And keep in mind the different containers we have for consciousness. There could be bent light, different types of light, plasma. These are things, the crystalline, they're different containers for consciousness. So I had to kind of try to compare that to these supernanaphim, because in this encounter with these extraterrestrials, interdimensionals, whatever, I tend to get, they gave me what the gurus call Shakti Pat, which is where the guru touches the apprentice and they have a Kundalini release and all the chakras are turned in and get blissed out. Some of these non-humans, were emitting that type of vibration, but at no point did they tell me they were angelic or anything like that, So I had to compare the difference in that. But these beings I saw when I died were regal. They were a different energy level all the way around. Okay, so that, if that makes sense to everyone. So anyway, I also, during my near-death experience, I had saw my uncle, who we had just buried 2 days before my accident, my mother's second youngest brother. And then I also saw my grandmother and her best friend. When I'm talking to them, it was like talking to you now. It wasn't like some vision. Okay, and he had told me that he crossed over and I couldn't remember it. And when I woke up, I was in the rehab and I'd had this clearing out, So technically, that's when I had to put in my mind how much of my near-death experience was the last oxygen in my brain versus brain responding while I was in the coma to external stimuli, versus what I experienced. And I'll say this to you, my friends, reality is real to the perceiver. Had I not come back here, I would have been there and on. So that experience is what actually wind up getting me exposed as a contactee, because people like doctors here in my state started taking interest in my reaccount of the near-death experience, and from a psychological perspective, and then it came out I was a contactee and other things. So I don't have to hit my head again to not go against the divine field. I go with it.
So I want to, and experience the divine is a beautiful thing. Okay, no matter how you experience it. But there's another side to it, and I've never experienced that side of it. As far as that, but I've always, I think about the film Ghost.
That's a good one. Good one.
And where the light, and he feels the love, and they go towards the light and all that kind of stuff. But then when the other side, you see the darkness come up and take them, and I wonder how close that is to true,
Well, I'll tell you that's probably my favorite scene at the end when he when the glass cuts his old friend, and he comes out, he's like, Sam? And he looks at him, oh, Carl. He's like, Sam, what? He just kept going, oh, Carl. And those things came right after that and took him down. Sorry, just getting a little geeky on you there. But in reality, Ghost is one of the best movies, because what I do a lot of now is I do a crossing of earthbound spirits.
Right.
And as a medium, I don't just mean the ones that you see on the outside of your people that will give you evidence, survival evidence, communicate with a message. These ones are different. They're entwined in people's energy fields so deeply that they express themselves as negative behavior patterns, and you can't see them on the outside. It's a whole nother thing. But during this, I always inquire before I cross one over, why did you not go into the light? And, the things that I hear so often are, one is, I didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. 2, I got cheated. I shouldn't have died. 3, I couldn't let go of my loved ones or my property. Both of those, those kind of go together sometimes. And 4, and this is a big one, I've mistreated people. I've hurt many people. I've killed somebody. I think that light is to hell. I'm going to burn in there.
Mm.
So, and that just the auto suggestion of hell is very intense. So but anyway, referring back to that movie, what really I think stands out a lot is at the very beginning when they're walking out of the movie and he gets in the scuffle with the guy and he gets shot, the gun goes off and the guy goes running, he runs after him.
Right.
And he winds up going back. When he gets back to Demi Moore, he's holding his body. He's going, well, and then all of a sudden the light starts coming. He starts going, what's going on? And he kind of has what they call a panoramic life review. He's in the bed with her and the statue falls. Then he's looking again at the light out there and it's starting to get really close to him. And he looks back at her and he starts going, no. And he started running. And when he ran, it stayed on for a second and then it went off. I can't tell you the amount of earthbound spirits have described something quite similar to me, saying, I drowned and I went over there and my friends were resuscitating somebody I was going to help, but it was me. And then I started I got scared and then all of a sudden that light came. So I ran off in the field and got away from it and it finally went away, So that says something about our free will, our ability to actually not go into that light. But once you don't do that, that's where your loved ones are. That's where your guardians are and a lot of other things. And, I hear, to address another part of your question, Tex, which is these people that are very well known now, and they got a lot of people following them, and they're telling people, don't go in the light, whatever happens, don't go in the light. It's a reincarnation cycle trap, and you're going to be in hell and come back here and yada, yada. And giving that auto-suggestion to people, and these people that are well known doing this, I've said this before, there's 3 criterions before I'll even talk to them about it and argue about this. One is, are they a medium themselves? Not a psychic, but a medium. Every medium is a psychic, but every psychic is not a medium. They're different gifts. Okay. And then 2, have they had a near-death experience themselves? What backs up what they're saying? 3, what case body work have they done with earthbound spirits and ghosts? whether outside the energy field I just described or inside, or they even know about that. So those three things put these people very much they're listening to other people, not talking from experience. And I could say when you go in the light, I've seen some things, the change definitely happens. And I've seen loved ones come through the light, come through these portals to guide others over. That part is on ghosts too. And I tell you, I underestimated the impact. People say, what don't you see? I'll tell you, I underestimated the impact that our relationships have on each other. And I try to live by the golden rule, and I still was falling short. You get all that comes back to you a millionfold in like a panoramic life review type of thing. And it's instant, so you feel that if you're dogging people out.
Yeah.
Well,
and going back to what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
What I have to wonder about, I'm not saying all those people, but some of them, I have to wonder if there is an alternative agenda keeping them away from the light. If it's not just what they don't know what they're talking about, are they doing it on purpose? Is it with malice?
Well, one way or another, it is promoting dark agenda text.
Right.
But there's something else we have to be aware of too. And when we come out of the body and when we go through the death process, there's a great shock. And to me, I equate it to like, if you've been sleeping like 10 hours or 8 hours, in a real deep REM sleep, and that alarm goes off, you hit the button. But for just about a minute, you're just kind of, excuse me, just kind of out of it, and then you get your coffee and go on with your day or whatever. But when we come out of the body, it's the same for a second. We just stunned. And you do have those that are deceivers can come during that time. And they might be beings of light to a degree, and that's when you have to be able to use your discernment, because they might be presenting a type of a soul trap or something that's wrong, and in that way, use your discernment. Because when you're out of the body, what I experienced, you got much greater discernment than you might have in this. And discern the light that you're seeing. Is it like a light coming from the moon, a cold light that isn't really that life-giving light, something that's nocturnal light? Or is it the life of the sun, the living light that is giving light, warmth? It's a different thing going on there. You can discern that. So be aware of that when we first come out of the body, I think. And that may be where a lot of people, I think, get thwarted or maybe grabbed, or where a lot of this negative stuff comes from.
Yeah.
But by the same token, use your discernment, then you start accessing, the real light. So that's one thing I'll say about that.
Because I was going to ask you brought up a point. There's so much to unpack here too, Barry. And right when you're about to leave the body, now I will preface this to everybody by saying I've done this many times, which is fine by me. I'm not a religious guy. I have my belief in heaven and hell. I believe there's God. I believe there's a devil. And that's where I leave it. That's my belief system. I'm of the believer that, hey, when I die, I'm either going to heaven or hell, right? Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to heaven. But here's the thing. I've talked to many people that say right at that point of death, though, you're given an option. One is do you want to continue on in this process? Do you want to stay back on Earth? But that would be as an earthbound spirit. Or as normal physical life. And then that in between. If that's even true, Barry, isn't that a lot to unpack? I don't know, again, what it would feel like if I'm in a life or death situation. I'm going on to the next light. That seems like an awful lot to ask of somebody right at that point of death. And how do we know if it's even true? Like Tex was saying, you were brought up, how do we know it's not even an evil entity trying to trick us?
Well, the discernment, that's where that comes in. Like right now, like when I tell you that I died, and even if I thought, I didn't realize that I didn't have a body, apparently. But, when dealing with the loved ones that I saw, one would be the question, was it them or was it devils? Was it demons? It felt like them.
Okay.
Don't you know what your loved ones feel like when you encounter them now? You know what I mean? I knew it was them. It wasn't even a doubt of that. And I think that's got a lot to do with the vibration you're on too. And
Well, and
I
I
think
don't think, and
I mean,
depending on how you believe, I'm a Christian, but um, I don't think God would allow that to happen
allow
yeah,
what
for
to happen.
for you to go the other way instead of what He means, the way He meant for you to go.
Well, that
Well,
that that, that
I
brings
don't.
you to suicide. Then suicides. What do you feel about that? That's going against the divine field. Divine field.
Well, that's
Don't you
true.
think?
But I don't.
See, like for me, I was given a choice, and I came
Right,
back. I want to
right.
live still.
yeah,
But
okay.
what I'm saying is, I don't think God would allow somebody to be tricked into going to hell at that moment. At that defining moment in their crossover. But that's just me. Um, I don't think he's gonna give the. I don't think he's. I just don't feel that he's going to let that happen to somebody. One of his people, one of his children. Um, However you believe and
Yeah.
however you distinguish that. As far as suicide goes, I think there's extenuating circumstances. I
And what
really,
are
really
those?
do.
And what are
Huh?
those? What are those?
Well, I think that um, I think some get a pass. I think it all. I don't think just because you commit suicide, you're automatically thrown into the depths of hell. I think you are judged, and that decision is made by him. You know, um, that's just the way I think. I mean,
I can tell you what I've experienced. And those
Yes.
that have committed suicide, I cross over. There's a great deal of depression and a shame, the embarrassment that
right,
comes along with the initial problems that had them do the suicide. And what this comes from is they feel a millionfold the pain of the loved ones that they hurt when they did it.
right,
And that keeps them earthbound, and they will step back. And like if they're attached to someone, they won't give me that survival evidence. They won't communicate with me because they've got that embarrassment and they step back. It takes
well,
sometimes a long time to get them to come forward. But then getting them to, once you get them to cross, they can still cross. But I think it says a lot, Tex, about our real free will. How much free
right,
will do we really have? And in some circumstances with suicide, like I think a pass might be like he'd be somebody like I had a cousin from several over that he had a terminal cancer, horrible terminal,
hmm,
and he had committed suicide, and he's to
yeah,
go through a ton of pain. So that's different there. You know what I
right,
mean? I think slightly than someone who just goes at the time when they weren't chosen to, and they've got family members, loved ones, children, even they're living behind that are
right.
just devastated behind that, and then they feel that on the side. I know it's going to be like that. So it's not that they can't cross over, but I think it it's a trigger for becoming an earthbound spirit. We have to be
Right,
very careful to stay in tune with the divine field. It really
right.
exists, real, you know.
And that's basically what I was saying. I think, and a lot of times I think the reason people don't cross over is like you were saying earlier, it's unfinished business.
Hmm.
Maybe if somebody commits suicide and they're not crossing over, if they have that shot, maybe it's out of guilt, and maybe they think they can make a difference in somebody's life, that is possibly going down the same path that they were, and now they know better, and maybe they can influence not to do that,
Mhm.
you know. Um, but when it comes down, but honestly, I think for me, it's like very much like your narrative experience. Um, I understand the whole free will thing, but and I know this is a big gray area, but it is to me maybe maybe he planted something a seed to tell you I'm not done with you yet. You know, you're not finished here. And that led to you making that choice. Is that making sense?
Yeah, to a degree.
I'm not trying to disagree with you here. I'm just
No, that's all right. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion. I can only deal with what I've experienced when I talk about this personally.
And the thing about it is,
yeah.
and the thing about it is, Barry, you've experienced this. I haven't.
Don't be in a rush, my friend.
Yeah, don't.
Don't be in a rush with indeed.
I'm not, but I've come close a few times. Don't get me wrong, but I've never crossed over and then come back like you have. So it's. I guess I'm just. I guess I'm just expressing the layman questions here, and but I don't know. I think a lot of it comes down to faith and how you believe.
Oh, absolutely. And like I'll say this, and for these people that say, "Oh, don't go into the light," I'll be dealing with the earthbound spirit. And I've done over 300 now. I've crossed over earthbounds themselves, and I'll tell you, they almost all have a recurrent theme that comes up. It's dark here. It's dark here. It's dark before they join with the person. Even when they join with the person, it's still dark. Okay. And something, when I bring their attention to the love of God, they begin seeing the portal that's already there. These people that are standing by it with these angels, they've been there since before the session started. But the earthbound couldn't see it. I start talking about God and love, and suddenly they can see it. They can see their loved ones. This is somebody hypnotized that's almost what we call a flopper, about to fall over. They're completely out of it, but they're talking in another voice. You know what I mean? This earthbound spirit will see the family members and then decide to dislodge from the part of this person and go into the light.
Right.
So God and love and the light are connected. I don't care what any of these other people are saying. They're deceiving, pushing dark agenda. You know what I mean? And for example, I can't tell you everything that happens in the light, but something like this. Okay, I have an earthbound spirit that I'm crossing over, and it's a female, and it's telling me it's in another female, but it's telling me that this individual that they hang out, they look like they did before. He's tall and he's got the long hair, just like last time. And they're talking about an individual that they were married to that has died and reincarnated. And they're still here, earthbound. And what happens? This negative behavior starts expressing in the client that they've gone off with this individual and had an affair and ruined their life, ruined their marriage. And then once that earthbound is crossed over, the client is telling me a week later, especially, oh my God, I'm not even attracted to that individual. They don't look anything like my husband. I ruined my life for that individual. Why don't I feel the same? It was the earthbound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that says something about that whole process. And I have no idea how long it is before we reincarnate. I mean, especially when you look at things like that TV show used to be called Ghosts Inside My Child. And it was about these children that said that they remembered living. The one kid said he died in 9/11. You know what I mean? And that's not very long at that point when that show came out for him to reincarnate. And I do believe we definitely have the choice. I have the choice to come back. And these are things that happen in the light.
Yeah.
Real quick, I had one I've told a lot, and it's just one of the first ones that was really resistant to me. When I first get him to come forward, he's telling me, "Oh, I heard you were coming." I said, "Who told you that?" Never got a clear response on that. But anyway, said, "And you're going to try to trick me. You're going to try to trick me." I said, "Well, how am I going to do that?" "You're going to try to get me going in that light." "I'm not going in that light. I'm not going in the light." I said, "Well, you can't stay with the client. Why won't you go into the light?" "Because I can't have another drink there."
Wow.
This individual, tell me that was at the bar, and they lived across the street. It's last call. They go back to their house, do a couple of nice fat rails, and are going back to the bar for last call and have a heart attack and fall in the street and died out in the street. But the last thing was last call, another drink. One of the main things that kept them here, along with being scared of going to hell.
Right.
And so they just hung out in this bar for, heck, Tex, it was like 50 years. That bar's 50 years old, jumping people that come in there all the time, and then having them drink a lot. And for that client, it said, I joined with them because they were socially awkward. They weren't having a good time. And they were in the bar. I wanted to have another drink. And then what happens? The client has a disposition for alcoholism and suddenly becomes an alcoholic and ruins their life. You know what I mean? And and he says this to me. He says, but wow, they can really put them away. And when I get them to drink so much that they black out, I feel the most alive. Think about that.
No.
That's when addictions keep people here. Anyway, sorry, I'm going too far.
Well, that's
I'm sorry. That never even occurred to me. But when we think about it, it's because we talk a lot about all these other entities. Now I'm not talking about people that hadn't crossed over, but all these other entities that they're looking for a weak point to jump in. Well, it's the same. It must be the same way, like when they drink the blackout or whatever. So, yeah, it makes sense.
It's weird, it's a trip because we're talking about right now, just like the mom and dad, uncles didn't cross over the human. We're not even going on the demonic. Right. But you're very right. The demonic attach in the same way. They go through generational curses. And we have to understand that psychology and science shows us right now that trauma stores in organs of the body. The body specifically stores certain traumas in certain organs. We can pass that same trauma to our children, but that also is the place where are vital joining places for dark entities, earthbound spirits, all these things.
So
I agree with you 100%.
Now, I do like the way this has been laid out, Barry. Thanks. A lot of those things you mentioned, I didn't even think of myself. And you did mention earlier about, we have that choice, like you say, we know that we have a choice. You mentioned reincarnation, which is, you kind of stole a question that I was already going to ask. So then you believe that there are people that have had a past life, right? And number one, how would we know? We only know at the end when we see the light. And two, what about these people that do get reincarnated and they feel the love, the light, they see their family, yet the person chooses to be reincarnated as something else?
You mean it's like as a different, like, you mean as an animal or something like that? Or?
Entity. Does that even exist? You believe in that?
Transmigration? Kind of don't, but I don't know. You know what I mean? You may be such a horrible person and do such horrible things and build up so much karma, you might come back as a rock.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. So a lot of people. But here's the thing. I know it sounds like a ridiculous question, but I got to tell you something.
Not really.
People every day say, I want to come back as a butterfly. I can't tell you how many times people believe that they're going to come back as something else, but not human. And you hear it so many times that it makes you wonder, is that even a possibility? Hell, we've all gone through weird experiences where I don't really find that even to be possibly weird. Something created by God, and it's supposed to be love and light and everything else. So to me, I don't think it exists. I will qualify that, but how do we know, right?
That's interesting. I don't know. I wouldn't want to diminish my sentience in any way.
Yeah.
But keeping that in mind, when we think about what you talked about a lot, and that is shape-shifting, and how shape-shifting really occurs, and to how I was taught it happens through the dream body, the energy body, through the intent of will. So that means you're still present. And whatever I can say about the death process and about these earthbound ghosts, whatever happens totally during the death process, parts of the personality survive, period. Mm-hmm. And that, and I think that's what keeps people here and everything else. I am So I don't know. I wouldn't say it's not. It's impossible. I wouldn't say that at all. But I personally would not want to come back anything that diminish my sentient. But when we're
Yes.
dealing with the prime creator and the life force, all options are off. Anything can happen. So I don't want to put us in any type of a compartmentalized
No.
fashions.
But you do believe there are people that have lived other times and have come back and lived time over and time over.
Oh, definitely. And the fact that whatever happens here as we incarnate here as immortal souls, we're devoid of soul life memories. And that sucks. There's something wrong with this place. It's like, okay, you guys are in 12th grade. It's time for graduation. But guess what? You can't remember kindergarten to 11th grade. That sucks. I mean, and so knowing that and not having soul life memories means we could have reincarnate here again and again and again and trapped in a reincarnation factory and be unaware of it. So that's where I think, attaining some type of control of your awareness and perception, and these are things that include what they call the left side of awareness, which is where dreams and the death process and the metaphysical exists, opposed to the right side of awareness. I don't just mean brain, but awareness. On the right side is what they call the band of man, where it's everything, all your energy is keeping this as it is. We're all in agreement for that. But it takes like 100% of our energy, free energy, to just pay our bills, let alone have time to meditate and do all these spiritual things. So all of our energy is consumed with just living, and we don't have enough free energy for the left side to dream and have dream attention. A lot of people don't have that. I have to work hard to get dream attention. I wasn't just gifted with it. So it's things like you have natural people that can dream, but these are people that have the energy that can use that left side. But that's also where death lies. So if you can keep aware and conscious in your dreams, not just astral projecting, but dreaming and going into the dreamscape, that means you can have a certain amount of control when you pass and project yourself direct to the creator, bypass a lot of that other stuff.
Is what you're talking about the same as what's called lucid dreaming?
Yeah, I think even a little bit more in
Okay.
terms of you have actually full attention there. I found a lot of times some of the people that are talking to me about lucid dreaming are pulling my leg, because there's certain things that happen when you go so deep into the dreamscape and you can actually focus your attention. Okay. And you can start discerning, then realizing you're in the middle of an electron impulse and phantom images. And then it's a matter of isolating what energy generating beings are in your field of awareness besides yourself. And they're hiding behind these phantom shadows, phantom images, and the dreamscape. They're around us all the time.
Right.
The really, really negative ones come into our dreams. They show up as people we know. You got a family member, your dad's just up there tearing your ass up, man. The whole dream, you're like, God, why is he doing this to me? He don't even act like this. It's not him. It's one of those things. Inorganic being attacking you, flaring your emotion, draining your energy.
I've taught myself to lucid dream to a point. Because I can be in a dream, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I can be in a dream and realize I'm in a dream and realize that pretty much anything's possible. But I'll give you an example. Something weird happened to me the other night when I was dreaming. I realized I was in a dream, but I still couldn't do something. I couldn't move the way I wanted to. It was like there was two me's and they were fighting. The dream me and the subconscious me, I guess, or whatever, the lucid me. But it was like they were fighting each other, and I was like telling myself, why can't I do this? I'm in a dream. I should be able to do what I want. And it was so hard. I felt like somebody was, I don't want to say tied down. It was like restricting my movements, and I was frustrated, and it was just really strange. I've never had that happen before. But I don't know. I've been told, backtracking here a little bit about past lives and stuff, reincarnation, all that kind of stuff. I was told one time that I was in the Civil War and I was in World War II, and I died violently both times. And I've always felt, and I think we talked about this once before, Barry, that I've always had this feeling that since I was a young kid, that when I die, it's going to be violent and it's going to be helping somebody else. You know, it's always been there, you know, in the back of my mind for me, you know, but it's a strange feeling.
Well, if it's a past life that you had you were terminated in such a way, it's still in this lifetime, your organs are going to store it. You know, and it's still going to be there. And you, like, for example, like, you have a lot of people that are incarnating right now that have a fear of water to a degree and drowning. And it's these people that were passed in either Lemuria or Atlantis on this planet during that whole the deluge thing. So,
right.
You know, and that's kind of happened now, but these things still follow us, you see. But it's a problem releasing the traumas when our society doesn't even believe in past lives. So how do you
Yeah.
But these are things, everything on this planet is layered, everything, you know, and that's one of them, definitely. And getting rid of trauma and generational curses and all these things, it's really imperative for our growth and for our pure perception. And we just don't have long to do it, you know?
Right.
You know, going back to, that reminds me of something about the earthbounds and inhibiting growth. I got to ask you this because you have helped. You're a medium, correct, Barry? You've helped other people cross over, right? So I often wondered, are there just as many earthbound spirits roaming the earth as there are living humans?
My friend, I think there are more. I've had clients I've crossed 10 over out of, one person, one session. And that's 10 earthbounds that are attached. And like, everyone has them attached to a certain degree, and it's really a trip because, like I said, they're inside the energy field and it's a whole nother thing going on. If you combine those that are joined with those that are external in more ghost-like form walking around, I think the population is more numerous than the living, at very least equal. And that's a major problem here. One of the layers has to be taken care of for this place to make this dimensional shift everybody's saying. The shift in consciousness, that has to happen. We have to help the earthbounds get over. And we have to change, certain cultures have to change how they perceive the death process. Like I said, I'm always interested with these earthbounds where they joined with the client at. And they'll tell you. And you know how many times the one I've gotten the most, and I've said this before on some other shows, it's the incubator room in hospitals. And the amount, a lot that will join at hospitals, period, with people in surgeries and other things, but the incubator room is a major one. They see light coming off the young babies. They think they can either reincarnate or it's a chance to cross over sometimes, and they don't recognize there's another unformed person there. You see, and the problem is in a lot of our society, we don't know even how to cocoon and protect our children after they're born with an energy shield. We don't practice that normally. So these children in the incubator room, completely vulnerable. I had about, oh gosh, it's been about a year now. An earthbound I had crossed over, and this individual had jumped inside the person, joined with them at the hospital. And this was an individual that was aware and knew how to protect themselves. Okay. So they're different, but you get enough stresses on your shields from different areas, then you get a health problem. It creates these little cracks, and just enough for one of them to slip in, or them to slip in. And if it's a negative demonic, they'll go for the heart chakra. If it's an earthbound that's trying to join. So this earthbound kept telling me, well, I was the only person strong enough to join with them. Others were trying, but they couldn't do it. Only I was strong enough. And they said this several times. So just before I crossed them over, I was, oh yeah, by the way, you said this is a hospital room. There are a lot in there trying to cross or trying to join with them. How many? And you know what they said? Oh, it's somewhere between what was the number 34 and 55, closer to 55. And I was like, my God, that's in a room. And this individual was saying, well, I was trying to get home, and also I was trying to help them. I was trying to help their surgery. You know, and what happens when you get a male baby there and you have a female earthbound that jumps on them in the incubator room? They grow up thinking that they're this female, this earthbound, and was always them. And does that create something like what I saw when I was a kid? My first box of Wheaties was Bruce Jenner with his arms thrown up with a triathlon. And now he's saying, well, really, that was Caitlyn that won that. What? Sorry, no offense to anybody, but that's just not a good woman. I don't think he should have been on Cosmopolitan. If I was a woman, I'd be a little upset. Anyway, but no offense to anybody who has made that transition. I just don't think he's a good representative. Anyway, but you know, I'm not saying that's the only reason, but how much does that influence that type of a situation? You know what I mean? And the child, they didn't even have a chance. It's not fair. Anyway, I'll let that go. Probably gonna get some apples thrown at me for the Bruce Jenner thing, but sorry.
Good old Bruce.
Rob, we taking a break tonight, or what are we doing?
Yeah, you know what? We might as well. We're at the 52-minute mark, and then we can come back with more with Barry. Barry, before we take our break, why don't you let our good people know where they can find you? We're coming back for the second half, but
Okay.
I'll let you get that out there at least a couple times.
Okay, I'm on YouTube under Barry Littleton. I don't have any cool handles. I'm also on Patreon under Barry Littleton. On YouTube, I've done a lot of work. Maybe go to playlist and check out the playlist, and I've been shadow banned. I also have a website, barrylittleton.com, that pretty much sucks. I need to evolve it a little bit more, but there are links on there to my social media. I'm on Instagram also and on Facebook, all under Barry Littleton.
Excellent, Barry. And we will be back in 5 minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Four minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. 2-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond BMR with our great guest tonight, Barry Littleton, talking about what happens when you cross over to the other side, earthbound spirits, and everything else. I appreciate everybody tuning in, watching us. The super chat is open long after the show. The super thanks is also open. And don't forget, you can find us Mondays on Texas Front Porch at 7:30. You got Tex doing his thing every Monday. Followed up on Tuesdays, Van Buren Varieties on at 8 o'clock in the East. Beyond BMR, this show, 9 o'clock in the East. Jason does a thing called Mysterious Libraries and Untold Radio AM at 10 o'clock in the East. Wednesdays also, Jason, 9 in the East, Serial Papers. And once again, at 10 in the East, Jason McLean questions everything at 10 o'clock in the East. Brunch with Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, Thursdays, 1 in the East. The Blondes and the Booze are on at 9 in the East. Fridays, Blondes and the Booze and the Woo, 9 in the East. Jessica Jones, Space Out Radio. Go check her out. She's Saturdays, she's Sundays with Dave Scott over there at 10 o'clock in the East. You can find us on Texas Front Porch and Bigfoot, Michigan Rob YouTube channels. We got a great show. I'm going to bring up Tex. Barry's doing his thing, and so far, a great show going on. Thank you for dropping the links. I've seen Be Kind drop the link for Barry and Lily Pond. We do appreciate that. We love when you guys out there help out Tex and I getting these links dropped for our fantastic guests. And Barry certainly is one of them.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I love having Barry on, man. He's so interesting to talk to. And oh, there he is. I got to quit talking about him.
Yeah, damn it, darn it, we were just talking about this Barry. Where the hell is he? He's late coming on, late coming back from break. Just kidding, man. Just kidding. We're just saying. Tex was just saying how much. Well, Tex, you say how much you love Barry. Go ahead. I won't speak for you.
No, I was just saying I love having you on, and because
thanks.
You're such a joy to talk to, and what I like about talking to you, Barry, is you're one of those people that I can bounce different opinions, different questions off of you, and it's you're open to a discussion, because so many people you can't have a discussion with, and I admire that about you, and thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm going to say some nice things too, Barry. Thanks for not making fun of me when I came up with that ridiculous earlier question.
I didn't think it was ridiculous.
Hey, but you know what? Sometimes I like to ask the question that's out there because, hey, let's face it, if I'm thinking it, someone else is as well, right? And I was always brought up, there's no such thing as a dumb question. And I roll with that, and I will do that till the day I die. And sometimes they're kind of strange, but if you don't know what you're not going to ask. And again, like Tex was saying, you're such a wealth of knowledge on all avenues. And and that's why I love having you on, because I can, the name of this show is Beyond BMR. So and you are beyond, because anybody that hasn't seen his YouTube channel, you got to go over there, because there's something for everybody. In fact, Barry, I will say this one last time. There, you got some mind-blowing stuff on your channel, man. There's stuff that I've got to watch it 2 or 3 times just to understand it. Now, I don't know if that's a good plug or not, but
thank you.
It is family friend. It is friendly. You got to go over it a couple times.
Yeah, and it's a little something hopefully for everybody that can digest. It's just stuff to trigger people to do their own research. So thank you for that. And something else I wanted to say too, and Spirit was on me to kind of say this, is that by no means is anything am I saying concerning this the overall thing. Okay, it just pieces to the puzzle concerning the death process, the reincarnation, everything. So not everything I'm saying is 100% everything. All right, they're just pieces of the puzzle. So I don't want it to come off like everything that I'm saying is just absolute. All I can definitely say is that not going into the light and trying to stay in the darkness. Everything I'm hearing, that's definitely not the way to go. Okay, and that's those things are just people giving disinformation and having even maybe less of the puzzle and pieces than I do. So we're all learning still, and we're putting this together. But I just wanted to know that I'm not the all-knowing guy. I'm not a guru or anything. So
and that's why I guess maybe earlier today when I asked that question, really it was about how do we know if we're being tricked into going to the light, and then you had said, well, you're going to know you're going to know in your heart if it's your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, a loved one. And with that discernment, and I got that better, but I was just always thinking in the back of my mind, it's just like you can feel it, and I understand that, I think 100%. But what about now? Because you've brought some people over, as we've talked about. How do you know, Barry, like when you're going through this, if it's not something that's from a different world? Well, first of all, though, I have to backtrack because there's something I wanted to ask, and it just popped in my head. What is there about mansion world? Have you heard that term, mansion worlds?
Yeah. I believe it's Yehoshua that said, "In my Father's house is many mansions," and you can look in things like the Uranta book and other things. They have a whole section of that book that's devoted to what they call the mansion worlds, which are the different worlds we go to around galactic center up on death. And they're like these different astral level things. And, for me, I correlate that with the Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which describes the death process so many days after death. But the Bardo itself is also these different levels of astral reincarnation and incarnation, I guess, different levels of incarnation, astral wise. Paramahansa Yogananda, in his book, Autobiography of a Yogi, I believe it was, talked about when his guru, Sri Yukteswar, after he died, showed up to him and said that he was, at a certain level with his training, a certain astral level, and he had this shimmering stuff all around him. So that's what the mansion worlds would actually be. Actually, on my YouTube channel, I've got, anybody wants to subscribe, please do, because the brother's shadow banned. But probably about a few months ago, I put out a video on YouTube that was called The Mansion Worlds.
Okay.
And I show what the Uranta book says about it and kind of talk about that a little bit. So so those are different reincarnation levels that are similar to the Bardo, which is off the Tibetan Book of the Dead, Bardo Thodol. So there's many of them. And for what it's worth, a lot of people I've talked to that encounter this first one, all just, including Daniel Brinkley, And I met him at the Conscious Life Expo in 2020 when I got back from Australia. I spoke there. He took the podium after me and he stopped me. We talked for a second before we transitioned. Interesting man. I read his book and saw his movie, but he talked about that. And my brother has seen it too, a crystalline palace. And these different crystalline palaces and like a crystal lake that start existing on these mansion worlds that you see. So it's interesting, you know, and that's what I think. At least that's my answer anyway. Sorry, it's long and drawn out.
Well, it's always better to have a guest or somebody on that has an answer for you outside of the standard yes or no. So, but no, that's why you're here, Barry. I'm here to have you on to learn different things and any guests we have on for that matter. So with these mansion worlds, is that something then that now we were talking earlier, then that's somewhere where you can go at the end when your soul leaves the body.
Mm-hmm. I think once you go through the portals of death, then you reincarnate there, you know, with a different body and around these things that they call Morantia companions, which are different angelic forms that teach us and help us to transition and things like that and take a step forward, you know, and it comes to a point of what point is it that we have this choice to come back here and to redo things? Like I know I, for some reason, chose to come here this time. I still wonder what in the hell was I thinking, but you know, I think that a lot of us, you know, as opposed to my brother will get, he's much older than me. He's 65, much older. Anyway, he has different perspective. He says he gets upset when people say, "Oh, I chose to come here and we choose to reincarnate here." And he says, "Man, I didn't choose to come here on any nano level, any quantum level, nothing." He said, "This place is very, very hellish." And he said, "We're just one step above hell here." And he looks at me, he says, "You know, bro, I was like injected here or something." I mean, but when you look at it that way, seriously, you know, a lot of people do feel that way, especially ones that say, "I'm a starseed, I'm from somewhere else." That's the word is used now, starseed. "I'm from somewhere else, I don't belong here." And you start enduring the morphogenic field here, the collective consciousness feeling here up on this planet is very, very negative. It's destructive, and it'd be painful for anyone. If you had a spaceship of Jedis come by this planet, they'd like, "Check, please." They keep going.
Yeah. Well, you know,
stop here.
No, and I would probably try to jump on that jet because you know you hear all these people. You're right, Barry. A lot of people say a lot of people have the belief that we're living in hell on earth right now. You know, you look at 9/11, you look at war, you look at predation on children. I mean, there's evil in this world. There's no doubt about it, right? It's hard to imagine that there's a place worse than the planet Earth when we talk about hell. You know, the lake of fire, I guess, would be where you're burning. If that's one of the stories I've heard, we continuously burn for all eternity. I suppose that would not be fun either. But, you know, a lot of people are suffering horribly today on this planet.
Hey, let me throw out some food for thought here. All right. Yeah. So I had one of the earthbound spirits I'm trying to cross over. When I mention God and love, he tells me, "Don't talk to me about God. There is no God." Whoa. Because if there was a God, it wouldn't allow us to be here bumping into each other and you all ignoring us forever. Food for thought. I mean, you thinking what different types of hell there might be. You know, that.
Yeah, you know.
That's earthbound spirit speaking like that now. And something else, you know, you mentioned the predation of children. I know that's really a big thing right now, as it should be in the forefront. But, you know, these individuals that do such torment, then they die, they don't cross over, and they might come and become something worse. And you get something like what happened to me when I was 7 years old. My uncle got this house, rented this house. I went in there and I got attacked in the basement by an earthbound spirit. Or a ghost or something worse. You know, what it tried to do is, I think it tried to join with me. Now that I'm older, I can figure it out. It tried to join with me. It wasn't able to. So it felt like a bear hug. You know how like when when your football friends would come up and grab you, and you're like being constricted by a boa constrictor or something. You automatically go like that and inflate. And then I got in my mind, get out, not wanted, not welcome. I had to get my mama to get me out of there. You know what I mean? But I'll tell you, that type of a predator, they cross over and they do something else, and a lot of them will jump on children to try to intimidate them to not use their abilities. They're like a lighthouse to those entities, whether they be earthbounds or ghosts or whatever, those predators. And they're these human predators. They just lose their bodies. So anyway, but just you had brought that up, but I think that's worthy of being known, because when I talk about that, so many gifted children or people that come to these conferences and stuff, they got attacked like I did as a kid, in that way by a non-physical ghost of some type in a haunted location.
Wow, that does kind of make a lot of sense. I mean, it's kind of creepy, trying to hold you back from your gifts, right? Because they know in the future you could be a threat to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. That's and I'll tell you, sometimes that house, I've been back to that house as an adult, and I've never been able to go back in it. He doesn't own it anymore, but I've been out there like, he's punk. You know what I mean? It's really easy to jump on a 7-year-old kid. He didn't get away with that. Try it now, that type of deal. But it's that it pisses me off. It's that type of, but that's this planet that we live on. And one level even lower than this would be basically you and I have huts and we have these big clubs, because there'd be these maniacs jumping out everywhere. I mean, it would be complete Conan the Barbarian, Thundar crap, man. So kind of like if the grids went down, the electrical grids went down.
Yeah. Well,
a couple of days.
There ain't no denying the spiritual warfare that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we face it every day, and I think we have to wake up every day and decide that, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be a warrior today, and it's tough, man. It's tough because there's so much negativity out there. So much negativity. It is really hard to be a positive influence in a pool of negativity.
And you've got these entities that are promoting negative thought forms, negative thinking, promoting these emotional flares out of us, and then just feeding. When I was trying to alter the way that I see when I was a teenager, I was trying to change it to a degree, because I wasn't seeing the really cool colors you see in the books. When I saw energy fields on people, it was different. It was like a umbrella-shaped silver thing or mushroom-shaped silver thing that went way above their bodies. You know what I mean? Way out. I mean, feet out. And I'd see this black spot in the middle, and I wasn't seeing these yellow, red colors all the time in the energy field. So I think, well, I must not be seeing, because it doesn't look like what you see in the books. That's not. You know what I mean? So I tried to augment the way I was seeing and make it look like that, trying different pineal exercises. And what happened, it augmented my pineal into perceiving the shadows more, especially in the peripheral. Peripheral's in black and white, if people are aware of it or not. Doesn't seem like it, but it is. That's why we catch spirits so much in the peripheral, especially peripheral against a shining surface. You'll catch them. Anyway, so that had it had really kind of just thrown it left, you know what I mean? So it was anyway, so I started seeing these shadows, and two different types, ones that were spherical and ones that were more oval. And one day I saw an oval one attached to one of my coworkers that was bowling, not gonna make what they call a turkey. There's like 3 of them killing it. I said something was wrong. It was after hours. I was like, hey, you all right? I'll never forget it. They look at me. Well, Barry, it's just the stinking thinking is getting to me. And they were getting ready to go through a divorce. But this thing, I seen it go in my peripheral, this oval shadow attached here, which would be about the crown chakra, and elongate to about right here around the sex chakra. And it started pulsing on her back. So I knew it was feeding on her. I started automatically saying, oh, God, please take this part of the site away. I don't want to see these no more. I don't see these shadows gathering in some places and stuff. And I think those are just the more minions. You know what I mean? So if you get another one that is something that's billions and billions of years old, you're in the struggle for your life. And be careful when these people say that they try to deal with that. Be careful.
Wow.
You know, something else real quick, Rob, is
Yeah.
that these attacks that these negatives do on us, we have
Mhm.
to be very aware of their strategy. Texas back. There you go. You got you got to be very aware of the attacks, the way their strategies in which they attack. And one way is that for those of us that know how to protect ourselves. Okay, I'll use of course, the Star Trek analogy. It's like you got the Enterprise here, and it's got its shields up, full shields, but you've got like 4 or 5 Romulan warbirds or Klingons, whatever, all firing.
Yeah.
And in reality, for us, that'd be you're getting hit with financial problems at your crib. They'll start messing up your haunted house. You got black crap coming up in your sinks. You know what I mean? Then they go over to your car, mess with your cars, causing you financial stress. Then they start getting in your mates and your family members, going off on you, causing problems there. Then you go to work and they create these petty tyrants, people that are trying to be middle managers and just miserable to work with. Okay, so they go these 4 areas, they attack, and what it does is it starts putting like stress on your shields. The Enterprise is getting stressed. Captain, the lithium crystals, and then they create these little cracks, and it's just enough for them to seep in, and then they go for the heart chakra. That's exactly what they do, whether it's through your loved ones or whatever, but they go for the heart chakra. That's where it hurts. So that's just one of their major attack strategies for ruining people's lives of negative forces. Something to be aware of. And sometimes, they'll be attached to the land too. You move into a house, they're attached to that land. So just be aware.
I've heard about that many times. And that's, if you think about that, Barry, that's what you just described is a lot of everyday Americans' lives, right? I mean, what you describe happens to everybody eventually, right? At least one time in their life, they go through all these they start small, then all of a sudden they escalate into something big.
Snowball. Mm-hmm. A snowball effect. No fun.
When you were talking about bringing people back over again, have you ever encountered anything alien? Now, everyone thinks that even what you're talking about is kind of in alien form, but when I'm talking, I have friends that believe that aliens are nothing more than demons. And I know that you've got your own personal accounts, right? Have you seen aliens though? When somebody's
for me, my personal encounters, I'm not been criticized for this, but I don't care what nobody says. Even though you're getting this huge love vibration off them or whatever, I did a lot of questions directly asking, "Are you demons?" This and that. Just because, what if they're deceptors? What if they're deceivers? You know what I mean? That's just necessary to know that. And let's keep it real. All fantasy stuff away when you're really in the presence of a non-human. It trips you out. It's unbelievable. It's breathtaking. It's all these things, and it's scary. Even if you're getting this vibration of love coming off of them, it's a trip. It's scary.
Yeah.
Whether they have a physical container or not, non-physical, and you're aware of them being there, it's another level. But more to answer your question, Rob, what I've encountered when crossing over earthbounds is not really necessarily aliens, but when I do past life regressions, a lot of times, and for trauma and other things, what comes up are incarnations in other solar system, other star systems that the soul has had right here. And it's a trip because these will be clients that they're not into the ET thing. Okay. This is not their thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They may be into the psychic thing or general pinal stuff, but the extraterrestrial thing is not their deal. And they start describing living on these other planets. And, I think that has a lot to do also. There's one of my favorite researchers, Preston Dennett. He did a deal about the amount of UFOs that are seen shining lights down on cemeteries and over graves. And that takes us into 2 realms. One is the negative realm, is that are these entities that are non-physical that are using genetic necrophilia oh, excuse me, still tired. Necrophiliac type of action to actually reincarnate dead matter and to create bodies so they can actually project their consciousness into and walk around down here with us. One problem there, okay, negative part. But then there's part two, the positive. How many of this are star beings and interdimensional beings trying to reincarnate somebody's past life memories, the soul life memories, and help with that? That goes on a lot. Real star family, so these are things just to take into term when dealing with extraterrestrial contact, because it's a thing of consciousness. And only now are they really people like Ray Hernandez and CCRI Foundation really discovering through intense surveys, intense study, how much the consciousness and the contact phenomenon are connected. They're not separate at all. That's something that I myself couldn't accept for a long time, because for me, I was a physical experiencer. Yes, I had dream stuff happen, astral stuff happen, but for me, that's not tangible. Like I can touch something. You know what I mean? That's different. So I wouldn't put down people that are having astral or dream experiences, because I've seen people on board craft that look like they're phased out. They're in their dream bodies. But guess what? They're not on that craft getting sick like me. So I had to adjust my thoughts to, okay, they're equal in terms of the contact phenomenon, because it's a conscious experience. I think that's coming more and more aware. Just like experience these ghosts or earthbounds, these are perception things, a perception and awareness. So anyway, sorry, I'm talking too much.
Well, that's kind of what we brought you on here for, is talk, Barry.
Yeah, we in Texas like to chill out and kick back, and
Thanks.
That's one thing. That's one thing I like about you, Larry.
There's probably people in the chat saying, "Shut that guy up."
No, man,
No,
the people in the chat. I
don't know about Rob, but that's one thing I love about you, Barry. We just wind you up and let you go.
Yeah, I know. I said, no, I gotta tell you what, Barry, before you came on, I was waiting for Barry. I said, man, Tex, I'm really glad we're having Barry on. Well, number one, because you're fantastic. I mean, first and foremost.
Well, thank you.
I said, man, because I'm so damn tired tonight. I gotta wind down from this month of December, all the festivities I've been going through. I just want to chill, listen to Barry. But
thanks.
You brought up something though that I have to ask you of, because I don't even know where Tex was. I think Tex was working. I was on some show. I think it was on the Blondes and Booze. They're part of our network. Go subscribe to Blondes and Booze.
That's a cool name. Was it Blondes and Booze?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Blondes. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We've got to get you on their show, y'all.
Yeah,
I was texting them today. I said, hey, because I didn't know if they were aware of you or not. And I was like,
yeah,
if you're not, you definitely need to sit on in on this one, because he's right up y'all's alley.
Yeah, Bear, you'd fit right in with them, just like me and Tex.
Oh, cool.
But and Jason, I don't think you've ever met Jason. I don't know. Maybe you have. I don't know. But I do have.
If you have, we apologize, is what Rob's trying to say.
Yeah, we apologize. Yeah, gosh. So I think Tex was working because he's got a goofy schedule, and I think I was on the Blondes and the Booze. We had another young lady was on with them, and I don't know what I was doing. I guess I just popped in. They had me come on, but we were talking about, because I always talk about the story about the mist that rolls around my chair. Not anymore, but I used to get this rolling. I think I was in sleep paralysis, and this mist would float down my hallway, and I'd always be up watching something, researching something scary, demonic on TV. And this was happening a couple years back, and I could not move and stuff like that. And I know I'm awake, but this mist would come down and start circling my chair, and all I can do is look. I can't yell or nothing. Then, long story short, then I started saying the Our Father. It went away. Since then, I've had the house blessed. It's a longer story than that. Had the house blessed, no problems. But one other thing that did happen to me after this, which I just remembered that one other time, and I kind of dismissed this, but it was brought up in the Blondes and Booze podcast, and it strung a memory bank. That same type situation happened to me. And in fact, we were talking about projecting, astral projecting. That same hallway that I have still in my house. I'm sitting in a chair, the same chair, watching the same type of program, and I sense something coming down my hall. But now, Barry, I don't see the mist, but I can move. But I felt I got out of my chair, but I was crawling on my hands and knees down my hallway. And then I thought to look over my shoulder, and I saw myself sitting in the chair. Yet I'm on my hands and knees looking down the hall, but I can see the chair and the TV on. And boom, then I kind of freaked out and I woke up back in the chair. So someone said that might have been an astral projection, or was that sleep paralysis?
Well, here's the thing. The dream body or the energy body has the ability, it doesn't conform to any of the physical parameters of this body. So one of them would be shape and other things, but also it can be made partially corporeal. And at that point, our entire cognitive abilities can be transferred. Our dream, not just dream attention, but entire cognitive abilities can be transferred into the dream body. And at that point, we're capable of bilocation. You just described being bilocated. And it's very imperative to think about that. You just described seeing your physical body from your dream body, aware. Now, that's imperative when taking and incorporating that with the contact phenomenon. So often, these beings on higher levels of consciousness and dealing with different technologies that maybe be AI or even beyond that, okay? They're capable of bilocating us during the contact experience. So in that way, I've been on board a craft I just mentioned physically, and I see these people touching the light of this engine on this craft, this column of light, but they're phased out. They're like transparent a little bit. And sometimes some of the beings on those craft are like that. Because, but for them, it's because for these people, they're in their dream bodies. And, some of these people, a few people that were in that group, I've met in my third dimension, my real life, and it's interesting. One of them can remember, one of them can't. So it's actually three that I've met. But anyway, so in that way, that's the dream body being made corporeal so they can have that experience. And in that way, they weren't suffering from that thing I've talked about that's called temporal aphasia, which feels like being on a merry-go-round or losing your stomach on a roller coaster. It feels like that, and it makes me want to throw up. And at the same token, you're getting bombarded telepathically with stuff. It's hard to breathe on some of these craft, so it deteriorates the experience itself greatly. And the people that are there in dream body, seeing themselves or whatever, as a text, as you just said,
yeah,
okay, they're not suffering from that same sickness and temporal aphasia that I am. So that's imperative, I think, for people to realize how much the bilocation happens when you're asleep and how much contact happens when we're asleep.
Is that because we're kind of more vulnerable when we're asleep? Or
Yeah,
more
well, no, it's not more vulnerable. And for ways we can, beings from other dimensions or other vibrations, we can meet them halfway, or they can meet us halfway easier. Just like the inorganic beings can do that we just talked about earlier, that masquerade as other people or odd objects in our dreamscape. They can be, the bad ones show up as people we know, but there are others that aren't necessarily bad. They classify them as allies, but they show up in things in our dreams that are unusual objects or unusual things. Like one time I didn't know I was dreaming. I was trying to cross these gates of dreaming. And the first one is you got to look at your hands. And man, just for me to do that, it took a long time to look at my hands and then shift my awareness around and stuff like that. But I was trying all these practices, and when I realized I was dreaming, I cleaned my apartment. I worked these long days. I went home, took a shower, and I came out, and I was going to go out or something. I could look at the table, and I had this first dynasty, like Ming vase, real big, sitting there. I was just proud, like, man, I cleaned that thing up. I'm doing great. And, you know, when I was during leaving, I could looked at it. I said, wait a minute. I'm in this apartment. I ain't got no security system in here or nothing. And this thing is, you know what I mean? It made no sense at all. And that's when I realized that this object was misplaced. So I tried to do what we call gazing and focus attention on it when I'm realizing I must be dreaming and have that reality of dreaming awake. I try to look at it and stare at it and kind of focus on it. It turns into a ball of pink energy, plasma looking stuff, and goes through the wall. Now, I'm not a skilled dreamer enough and can control my dreams to follow that through the wall and follow that inorganic being to wherever it's going. And that's dangerous. You get lost in there.
Well,
but that's these people that do dreaming. So
I did want to follow up with what you just told me about that, my experience, but I could tell you really briefly about my dreams. Mine are all very vivid. I can dream. I can wake up, go to the bathroom, go back to sleep, and continue the same dream. And I can pull up dreams from years ago, and I can put it in my head and manifest those dreams all over. I remember having dreams as like a 10-year-old kid. I can create that dream right now when I go to bed and dream it. And I can also have part 1 and part 2, like a movie, like a series. I can do all these things with my dreams. Yeah, anytime. Almost like anytime I want. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with what happened to me. So you're suggesting it wasn't sleep paralysis that when I saw my body, it wasn't, it was some other phenomenon. It wasn't a dream state. I was right. Or you're not suggesting I was part of an alien thing, was it?
No, I'm saying you had bilocated.
Bilocated, right.
You were cognitively aware in your dream body, and it had separated from your body, and it's looking back at your body. So that's what I'm saying. And I was just saying that also happens during the contact experience. They use that same phenomenon to do contact. I wouldn't mean in that situation, but nonetheless, especially you just described being a natural dreamer. For someone like me, I'm what they call a gatherer or a stalker. I have to act a certain way here in the third dimension, that things that aren't routine and stuff like that frees up, creates enough free surplus of free energy so I can maintain any type of dream attention like you can do normally. Now, here in the third dimension, I can do a lot of things, whether it be psychic or whatever, but over there, you know, it's being aware. It took forever for me to be able to start focusing my dream attention and to start going through these dreamings of gate like you're doing naturally. And then when I did, I couldn't control it. And then what is happening in the process it was reading about and being taught about, it's like, man, you know, so it's okay. But it's feats of perception. But you bilocated yourself. You were aware in your dream body and looking at your physical body.
Okay. And why I did that, who knows? It was just part of, it's just really weird that I saw myself in a dream. It's just weird that I seen myself twice. I seen my physical body, but I knew on the floor it still felt like me too. Because I'm like, why in the hell am I crawling on the floor? Then I saw myself, and then I guess I located back into my natural body. I guess because before I knew it, I woke up and I was watching TV again. It was just weird.
If you're at a point where you can create your dreams like you described, the next step is to do away with all the dreams, all the phantasmagorical images, and see what really does that electron impulse look like. What's in there? What's in your field of awareness? What are they? What kind of inorganic beings are they? They won't be able to hide behind the Well, you got to be careful. Some of them can project that at you. So, you know, he's got through. He's blew our cover, so project something at him. Kind of like the Sasquatch. Listen to what is it? People saying that they were on the hunt. It was in the 1970 documentary, and they were saying how they thought they were getting close, but when they got to an active area, how uncomfortable they all got. They want to get out of there. I think it was describing the infrasound, get hit by that very mild infrasound, that those beings are capable of.
I got zapped by it, all right. Yeah. But.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Just now with that new DNA evidence that David Paulides came out with, that $500,000 DNA testing they were doing on those specimens, pretty hard to deny that. No contamination, the robot they had doing the deal. It comes out that they're human. And that a human, a type of human, hybrid of course, obviously. But it's just fascinating because that's what the ancient Africans and Native Americans always said about them. They're a tribe, a hairy tribe, and they don't do good trades. That's what I always read.
Well,
So I mean, the further back you read in old stuff, they always are described as looking like people and being people.
always, I got to thinking about some stuff the other day, and I'm like, why is it they discovered this? I can't Dinosapiens or something. The pygmy people that they discovered in the cave.
Oh,
that
Homo
were,
naledi.
But if mainstream science is willing to accept that there were 3-foot people running around, why is it so hard for them to accept that there was 8-9-foot people running around? Or subspecies of us or whatever. I don't get it. I think the major problem is saying that they still exist. That's the major problem. But
I was curious, like how many different samples, because he just released a video. He's showing this evidence and showing the hairs and everything. And I'll tell you, the way he said they were getting the hair, beside the samples that they had sent in and other things, was that they were he kept saying McDonald's pancakes in trees and wrapping the lower bark and near where the pancakes were with UPS like tape, yeah. And so when they go grab it, they're pulling the frolics out. I mean, that's ingenious because since they know about technology and they avoid it, it would have to be something silly simple like that to work. You know what I mean? And I think it's fascinating. I want to see how long the information he's presenting is sequestered by the scientific community. They're not going to be able to keep that down much longer. You know what I mean? I've always heard how Melba Ketchum would be vindicated one day. Looks like that could happen, Anyway, sorry, that's not dead people. I guess we're supposed to talk about dead people reincarnation.
Dead people are so much more fun,
So I've got a dream question for you.
Sure. Rob might be your guy for that, though. He's better than me at that.
Well, I've always wondered because I've had dreams where I'm not myself, and I'm an animal. And this might have something to do with my experience back when I was 16. But I've had dreams to where I change and from bipedal to running on fours and I'm a wolf, and what is that? And I've always tried to figure out what in the hell does that mean? Is that just, me trying to get into this critter's head that I saw when I was 16 or what?
In my limited knowledge, all right, that is what you're describing as true shape-shifting. And the way I was taught, true shape-shifting is done through the dream body, when you can do like what Rob was describing, pure consciousness into your dream body, then it doesn't conform to the physical parameters of this one. And the way that you actually shapeshift is by focusing your perception on an animal or something that so intensely, like, for example, when I did this and tried this, I was much younger, but there were these odd red mites on my parents' front porch. And there'd be several of them, and they'd be moving in these odd squares. They just moved odd. So I looked at them a lot. I got the microscope and just observe every detail of the animal's physical structure and behaviors, everything, down to the detail. And that focusing when you're in the dream body is how you actually mold the dream body or shape-shift it into what you want. And, I think that's fascinating because I've had an experience at that Assetti Ranch with a squirrel that was undoubtedly connected to my Sasquatch deals out there. And when I say that, this was, I'm not a young man, all right? And I thought the point of my life to having these experiences that just stopped my world and were past me until I went out there. And I have this thing with the squirrel, and it's connected to these Sasquatch little things that they were putting down. Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. And when this thing leaves, I was sitting there saying, my God, did I just experience a shapeshifter? There's no way around it. It was such a trip. And then I talked to this guy, Tom Powell, and he tells me, oh, Barry, and he's the one that had me put this damn leaf out there and triggered half this stuff anyway. Stuff was already going on. I listened to this guy. And then I asked him, I said, man, I kind of sort of shapeshifter with this thing. And he'd been talking about how the Sasquatch are connected to trees and live in trees and are parts of trees. And then he says, keep this in mind too, Barry, that they don't just shapeshift into different animals. They shapeshift into tree stumps. And they look like tree stumps. And when he said that, some things hit you like at 1,000 miles, man. Because I've heard so many people talk to me privately about they saw a Bigfoot and it looked like a tree stump at first. And it stood up or something.
Oh, yeah.
Even beyond what just are our normal abilities of sight. And, it makes me think going back, we start dealing with ancient warriors and ancient cultures that these beings existed before. And you have things like Nawals, those type of shamans, and these people that know how the eye works, the line of sight, how we don't see so far up and down, how the peripheral's in black and white, how the eye operates in terms of first we see movement, then color, then silhouette. What I just told you there, it's easy to be invisible with someone. But how did cultures learn that? Who started the peace pipe? These things like that need to really be evaluated, I think, when dealing with Sasquatch and beings that are claimed to have paranormal abilities. The whole Bigfoot community wants to get away from that. But now if you've seen that they've got the human deal, the tribes I just talked about, Nawals and things like that, you've got these shamans, whatever communicated with me out there, the mind speak, it was no monkey, I promise you. Yeah. It felt like some type of a shaman and really old. And I promise you, fellas, it was a much stronger telepath than me, okay? This thing bombarded me, and then when it was over, I couldn't get the channel going back. Now, can I tell you it was for sure a Sasquatch? No, it could have been something else. But I'll tell you guys, I swear it's doing a pretty damn good imitation. You know what I mean? The telepath and this stuff. What's that?
Well, no, Barry, it's great that you just said that. You just hit on something that Tex says all the time. So some of these things speak with people, but Tex, did he not just say what you always say? Barry just said I don't know if it was a Sasquatch.
Right.
Because we get a lot of people claim they can tell mind speak. And I can't say telepathy. There, I just said it. Wow, telepathy. But we don't know, is it Sasquatch or something else? And Tex always says that.
I had another phenomenon I experienced out there. This chanting. I don't sleep good at night. So I would go at 3 a.m. and I'd look at the UFOs coming off Mount Adams. And then and it's creepy out there because everybody say, hey, Barry, I'll meet you out there at 3 a.m. Nobody ever be out there. They'd be asleep. And so, I'm out there alone. He's out there. It's like, man, there's all the trees out there. You feel like you're being watched. And you know how skillful they are. It makes you a little nervous, And I went down to my yurt and I just turned off the flashlight. I said telepathically and I said out loud, look, one of you steps out and you're like 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall by my estimation. I'm like from the Midwest. It's going to scare the hell out of me. So just don't do it. All right. And then there was nothing. I'm staying out there looking like a fool, talking to myself, thinking to myself. So I go sit in this yurt, and that's when I got hit with this telethought, But there was something else I was going to mention. At 3 a.m. or late, between like 4 a.m., the light come up 4:30. There'd be like this half hour. I start hearing this chanting, and it was like a clairaudience almost, and it sounded like a cross between Gregorian chant and like Indian Sundance music. I kept hearing it again and again. I think, okay, I dismissed it then, guys, as okay, I'm picking up something off the land here. It must be like past tribes or something like that, right? Then later on, I hear Scott Nelson and these people talking about how there's this chanting being heard in Texas and other Bigfoot spots, and that they think that it's protective prayer, and it's only heard close to human habitations. And so the question was, is it a protective prayer? Are they doing it for them or for the humans? Fascinating. You know what I mean? Like I said, but then again, Tex, I can't tell you, hey, it was Sasquatch chanting to me. I can't say that either. But It was very odd, just bizarre, you know? So this phenomenon that come along with these beings, I think is I think it's dumb exciting.
Again, Barry, that's why I love having you on, because
well, I'll tell you, I mean, there's so many things out there that's just fascinating to discover, and we don't know everything about what's out there,
Yeah.
But it sure is fun learning about them.
It is. I'm going to bring up a couple questions, Barry. We're coming up on almost 2 hours, and I got a couple questions from our audience who wanted to ask.
That was a quick 2 hours. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and so there's a couple questions that says here, Barry, do you think that some of us are here now to combat the negative energies prevalent now? That's from Be Kind.
Thanks for the question, Be Kind. Cool name, too. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I say that because right now, at the point we're at right now on this planet, and I'm sure you see it, everybody does that, this is a time of choosing. There's like lines being drawn in the sand. Even when I'm talking about there are these people that are promoting, like, don't go into the light. I've had a couple people get mad at me when I made a video saying bad advice. And somebody I've done a lot of work with, they turned on me, but I didn't realize that they were one of the people saying, hey, don't go into the light, and telling people that crap. Direct misinformation when I helped them with the crossing of a parent, and I guarantee they weren't telling them, don't go into the light. They weren't saying that. So that is misinformation, and that's where these lines are being drawn in the sand. And a lot of people that even care or listen to me at all, okay, I'm not important in that way, not special at all, especially with all the contactees we have. It's like most people, okay, if they're aware of it or not. But it's a resonation thing, okay? And some of us are with the divine field really representing light, and there's other that are saying that and faking it or not. These snake oil salesmen, and they're all over in these communities. They're the real popular ones. So I absolutely agree with you. And a lot of us are incarnating now, either from past lives here on Earth or from galactic coming here to help to stand this line and deal with this. You know what I mean? Definitely, it's a time of choosing, and there's no doubt a lot of people that are even listen to me or give me the time of day are here to combat negative energies here. So I say yes, 100. Thanks for the question. Be kind.
And Pat asks, Barry, if this is in your field of expertise, how do you remove a generational curse?
Tell you what, shoot me an email, barrylittleton13@gmail.com. I actually do generational curse removals and stuff like that in private. One is first, without saying a lot, acknowledging it is one, okay? And try and do what they say so much as cut the cords. But another part of it is realizing where does the curse, what's the origin of it? Where does it begin? A lot of times people don't go all the way back and get it. You know what I mean? And if you're in a house that is haunted and has a portal in it normally, and a lot of times these houses have two portals of male and female on the property, it's going to make it that much easier for generational curse to come through. And especially if you're still on the land that was family land, property land, it's awful hard to break those ones if it's from the land, because you remember this stuff will come out of the land.
Do you think that's what we may be dealing with in Brown Springs and maybe like places like Skinwalker Ranch and all those types of places? Is generational curses on the land?
Yeah, there's that too there. I think you've got that going on there. I think you've got government experiment going on. And I think some of the experiments they're doing are stuff with underground technology and things that have been here from when we were a type 1 civilization. That stuff's still on this planet. And they're trying to get that stuff to work and trying to understand it and back engineering it. So I think we've got a combination of things at the Skinwalker Ranch, And also, I think it's on a lay portal too. And I find it so interesting that I'm just going to say it. Anybody that's not seen that Missing 411 and UFO Connection, check it out. No. And I find it interesting how much the bodies of water and Skinwalker Ranch has been correlated with David Pauletti's research a whole bunch, the similarities apparently. And one would be the granite that's around there, and two would be it's near a body of water. Interesting, you know. Anyway, sorry.
That is interesting. Yeah. That's all right, Bear. Amy, this is a comment. I think she come on here just talking about deceivers. She says a deceiver pretended to be her sister who passed. She knew it, and then it just vanished. Mm-hmm. I don't think, yeah. So that's, you know, we're talking. I don't think Amy had an experience like that, but
was that Amy that had that? I'm reading it now.
Yeah, that was Amy. Yeah.
You know, I'd be interested to know how long did it take her to discern it wasn't her sister. I bet you it was quick. I bet you she knew quick. Yeah, and then and a lot. You know, some things that, you know, that's a question we didn't ask. I didn't answer it. Somebody had asked, how do you know when dealing with some of these earthbounds if they're a demon or not, or demonic or not? There's certain things. One is, I'll be honest, a lot of the earthbounds will cross over a lot easier than you would expect. But I treat them with cognitive behavioral methods that I use with clients, you know, youth and adult clients in my profession. But cognitive behavioral, you're not treating them like demon. Okay. And like these might be aunt and uncle that didn't cross over. They're not demons. They respond differently. It's easier to get them to cross. But when you come across one of those dark ones trying to pretend, they have problems saying names. A lot of them have problems saying names. They use reflections that are even different than a couple of 1,000-year-old trapped earthbound will use. They'll use frame of reference that are out of date, but these things use ones that don't fully make sense. Yeah. They're hostile, very touchy and hostile about certain things.
And Amy
immediately, right on.
Immediately, yeah. So.
See, when you're out of the body at the death point and you see that false light that could be a false soul trap, you're going to know just as fast as she did. I love she said that. Thank you, Amy. That's killer.
Thank you, Lily Pond, for this super sticker. I appreciate that. Text tonight. Thank you so much.
I recognize that name. Hello, Lily Pond. She's on they're on I think on Jessica's show too, right?
Cool. Lily Pond travels well. She hits all of our shows. Thanks for that, Lily.
That's cool.
That's a good way to put it. She travels well.
Yeah, she does. So does Amy. I just met Amy several months ago. She's really cool as well. And everybody else is as well. They're two of our newer. Let's see.
You know,
I
just saw one that caught my attention.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's from Strange Land. It says, I've had a woman show up at a bar and tell me things no one knew, and she disappeared walking up the street. My nephew experienced a woman on the street that disappeared after she gave him a message.
Wow.
You know, there's two things that could cover that. Excuse me. One would be not just earthbound or ghosts, that could be, but it could also be something I call charters. And for me, the charters have showed up every 7 years, and they come at a public place like a bus station, the airport, or bookstore, antique shop, somewhere. They come up and they say something just profound to you. They seem to know things about you, then they just slide back off in the crowd. And for some of us that are contactees, they seem to show lifetime contactees. They show up every 7 years. But by the same token, you have like sayings, I believe, in the Christian Bible that talks about how often people have entertained angels and been unaware of it. So I think that what they just said crosses both of those, all three of those. That's probably more of a question than an answer, but nonetheless, I think what they're saying crosses all three of those possibilities. Cool question. Sorry, that just caught my eye. So
actually, I was going to read it anyways, and that was great. Yeah, that was a great question by all the people that left the question. And Barry, this was just a fantastic show. We're going on 2 hours. I could go another hour, but I think today's Tex is going to be getting ready for work starting tomorrow. I think he's got that crazy schedule. And Barry, I know a lot of our mods did drop your links, and I've seen a lot of your. They also dropped some of your playlists, which I thought was really cool. Thanks to Bomber Lily Pond, and for that, and a few others. And why don't you once again just tell us where we can find you? What else you got going on?
I'll be like that guy joking around. I need subscribers. No.
Oh, thanks, Steve Stockton. Thanks.
This guy was telling me I need likes. I was like, "Take it easy, man." So okay, seriously, I'm on YouTube under Barry Littleton. I got a lot of information there, so please come there, subscribe, ring the little bell. I can also be found on Facebook. I try to communicate a little bit on there. On Instagram, also always under Barry Littleton. I have a website, BarryLittleton.com, but that's not really that active. But it's got some links on there. But you can find me on YouTube and Patreon just as quick. I'm on both of those. Patreon, I have more videos than YouTube that I never released to YouTube, just because the people are really good to me there. So
awesome. And also, thank you to Steve Stockton for that super sticker. And he just subscribed to you, Barry.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So it was a great show. It was a great show, Barry. Tex, thanks for taking time out of your day to be my sidekick. And we're going to have to team up for that steak dinner, I guess. But I'm not going to regret it because, you claim that Texas has amongst the best steakhouses. So you're just going to have to, prove that to me, I guess.
Well, maybe. Oh, thank you, Pat.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Pat, very much.
We can, maybe if we're in Iowa together, maybe we can find one in Iowa.
Oh, Iowa, yeah. Yeah, what are we doing in Iowa? The Malvern
Manor. We're doing an investigation there.
Yeah. So we're expanding our I am a little bit our ghost hunting beer.
Yeah, we were invited by the Blondes and Blues, blah 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 blah. Blondes and Blues.
I like that. I like their handles. That's kind of cool.
Oh wow. And Amy just sent us a super sticker. Thank you so much, you guys.
Wow, I want to say thank you to the chatters here. There's so many comments. They're all so good. Wow. I was way behind. I didn't even realize. Wow.
Yeah, we do have I do say we do have the best people in chat on all of our channels. They come in and they ask great questions, and they're intent and they listen to everybody, and they're wonderful, and they all do great jobs with sending out the links for everybody. Again, thank you everybody for the super chats. I love you. Tex loves you.
I do.
And he does. Beer, I'm going to have you come back because we just tipped the iceberg with you, my man. I'd like to do every 2 months you come out with a different topic. How's that sound? I think the people in chat would like that. So
yeah, I'll be honored. Thank you.
Right.
That's really cool. Great audience. Thank you, and thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hey,
it's always good to talk to you too.
Yeah, I'm the one who's honored, and thank you very much, Barry. We'll talk to you on the flip side.
Thanks, Rob.
Take care of yourself, Barry.
Tex, thank you. God bless, guys.
Thank you once again, everybody in chat. See you again.